This is the Big Fish Cares Podcast. Big Fish Cares Podcast. And here's your host, Benny Fisher.
All right, we got a special guest today. Females. We got females on the Big Fish Cares Podcast. There's only been a couple in the show's history. And this is my friend, Jen Silver. I've met her in the same industry that I'm in, the roofing industry. But we're not going to talk about roofing today. We're going to talk about Jen because she's passionate about many things. Jen, I was going to do a big, long introduction of you, but like you do so many different things. So I'm just going to let you kind of like talk about you a little bit and tell us where you came from. Tell us how you got started. Tell us your kind of career path. Let's hear the Jen Silver story.
Oh, the Jen Silver story is a book, really. And it's actually going to be a really good book. But the Cliff Notes version is, I graduated from high school and nothing that I could see myself doing in life required me to go to college. So I didn't go to college, which practically killed my parents. But
where are you from?
Okay.
Where were you born? Let's start with that. You do have a birth certificate that says like I was born in a city, right?
I was born in Hahn, Germany.
Hahn, Germany. Okay, so I'm assuming your parents were in the military?
My dad was in the military until I was about 3.5.
Okay.
And then, so I'll give a quick, I lived in Germany, Orlando, Newport Beach, Riverside, California, Burlington, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Mebane, North Carolina, back to Riverside, California, back to North Carolina, back to California, Vegas, Boise, Japan, Utah.
All from 0 to 18?
No, that's from 0 to, how old am I? 42 now.
All right. So where did you go to high school? Like where were you living?
I went to 3 different high schools. See, that's why it's
was that
so
like
challenging.
Was that like North Carolina?
So I went to 2 in North Carolina and 1 in Southern California.
Like if you're a parent at home and you're a kid at home, like I already like have like empathy. Like I already feel like I have sympathy for you. Actually,
Oh no,
no, it was good. Like as I look at it, it's like man, you just kept bouncing like from place to place to place. How did you ever keep friends? Like how did all that work?
So I think that there's advantages and disadvantages.
Oh sure,
right. Mm-hmm. I am also incredibly resilient naturally, and I build community and family very quickly.
Do you think that's because of your upbringing, though?
That's right.
I don't think people are born like that. I think you learned that because you consistently just kept transplanting places.
Correct.
And you had
exactly
to.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So now that we know, like that explains your personality and why you love conferences and events and you love bopping around the country. Like it's just home for you. Like that's just
it's what I've always done, right?
You can't sit still. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It's good.
So that's a little bit about that side, and
all
then
right.
So I went into restaurants because I really enjoyed waiting tables and talking to people, and became a manager at 21, a GM at 24, a district manager by 27. Then I went into retail, grocery stores, and then I ultimately married a man in the military, moved to Japan, didn't work, came back to Utah, and about 1.5 years into living here, we got divorced, and I had to decide what I wanted to be when I grew up. And here we are. Now I'm a roofer.
So, listen, don't let her kid you, folks. She's just like, we ended up in the roofing business. She's a people person that happens to be in the roofing industry right now. But like you're a really good people person. I can tell by
I'm actually an ambivert, right?
A what?
So you're an ambivert. So you're an extrovert, right?
I guess. Introverts. I'm definitely not an introvert, so I'm an extrovert.
No, you're an extrovert. But I do both. Like sometimes, like I love to be around people, but it's not necessarily where I draw my energy from. Most of my energy I actually draw from being alone and having time to decompress. So it isn't as easy for me as it is for somebody that is a true extrovert that draws energy from other people.
Okay, because when I'm on the road and I'm doing that, like I'm in my zone, man. Like I could go like at RoofCon, like, and at Transform, like all these conferences, even at VCon, like I don't care where I'm at, I can go from 4 a.m. until 2 a.m, and like it's like, Ben, you're the same person at 11 o'clock at night that you were at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I know.
That's because you get all your energy from other people.
Yeah.
Right. And I give a lot of energy out because a lot of people talk to me or want to have conversations or whatever. And so by the end of the day, I am drained because I get energy from alone time. They don't feed my energy back. And so I have to shut off and go hide, or the next day I am worthless.
That's interesting. Yeah. Cause me, I got to wake up and go see more people. Like,
I know that about you.
I gotta go see more people.
And,
if I'm alone, somebody should check on me.
Yeah. And there are people that are like that, and it's great. It's just, I think people assume that I'm that way, but in reality, I'm really not. I need
good
to go and be alone and disconnect.
And that's why I do this podcast, because this podcast is more about the person, and it's always nice to get to know the person, especially someone like you that's done a lot of self-reflection. I could tell just by the things that you say, the content you put out. You can just tell when people have done the work on themselves, because then it's fun to talk to them. So let's talk about did you have brothers, sisters growing up? Like this?
I have one younger sister who is 4.5 years younger than me. She lives outside of Kansas City, which is where my mother lives as well, and her husband, and then my dad lives in Oklahoma.
When did your mom and dad get divorced?
When I was like 30.
Oh, so it was like a late divorce.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Oh, wow. Let's talk about that for a second. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 5, and I feel like most people get that's usually when it happens, right? Like when mom and dad, everyone's working, nobody can handle anything, and they just grow apart. I think it's so interesting that people can be married for a long period of time. How long were they married?
31 years.
How does that happen? Tell me how that happens.
Well, I think my mom had it in her head that they needed to stay married for the kids.
Yeah, of course. That's common.
And I actually think it was way worse that they did.
Oh, absolutely.
Than had they have separated or gotten divorced when we were younger. I mean, we were always living on whether or not they were going to get divorced, not going to get divorced.
Yeah, eggshells.
Because they always fought that way.
Yeah.
I moved out at 17 as soon as I graduated, and for the same reason, it just was not a happy home, so to speak. Now, I know that there's different levels of trauma in life, and I understand that. And the things that I went through, maybe on a big scale, are not as extreme as what some people have gone through in their life, but it still had a significant impact on how I viewed myself, how I viewed men, where I thought my worth was. And a lot of that I do attribute to the fact that my parents ultimately stayed married. I wish that my parents would have gotten divorced before I had kids. It would have been nice if they had timed it okay, the kids are their kids. My sister and I are grown up, but prior to grandkids coming, because that becomes really weird. Having to explain that.
Because that's not dynamic. That's not very, that doesn't happen every day.
But they're both, they both have new partners, and
we're probably a lot more civil. I'm assuming they get more civil as they get divorced when they get older, right?
They don't have anything to talk about, really.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, but when you get divorced, when you're young and you got young kids, it can get it can get very
oh yeah, it's ugly.
It's a little bit more emotional. I feel like they were probably just ready to be done, and they did it. And do you see them at group out at graduation? Did you your daughter just graduated from high school not that long ago, right? So
and they both came. And that was the first time I had seen my parents in the same room. Okay, how was that? It was a little weird.
For you or for them?
For everybody.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. They both had new partners and new.
Yes, and neither of their partners were there because they had to travel out to Utah for that.
Okay.
I think my mom met my dad's wife for the first time. I want to say at something that my sister did. I feel like I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a something for one of her kids. Oh no, it was her college graduation party because she graduated from college about a year or two ago. But they just, because they never have to interact, they don't. So it's probably more awkward than one would think, just because they don't have to see each other. I mean, they've been divorced 10 or 12 years now, and they probably have seen each other 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Now, how does that like make you feel as like a, I would say like you're still a young woman, but you're still like, you're like middle-aged, right? Like, I don't know what to call that. Like because you're interesting.
About to be a grandma. So
well, that's what I know. And that's what I want the listeners to know. She's like the same age as me, folks. Like, we're like in our early 40s, and like, she's getting to be ready to grandma. I just had a baby.
I think that's why it's so weird for me. I mean, my mom was a grandma at my age at 42. She had me at 20, and I was 22 when my first was born. And so my daughter is almost 20. And so it makes sense. We just started younger.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people are starting way older. And so I'm at one place in my life at the same age, whereas my friends are at a whole nother place in their life at the same age. And I don't know, like, do I just go date like a 50-year-old dude or a 60-year-old guy because he's at the same stage in life that I'm in?
Here's the deal. I will tell you, you're in the cool place that you can do either one. Gary Vee says and, not or. Like, you can literally date a 30-year-old and it'd be okay, and you could date a 50-year-old and it would be okay, and you could date a 40-year-old and it would be like, okay. Like, you're at that special place now. You can do whatever the freak you want to do. So yeah, and I think you just got to own it. Don't worry about what other people think, because I know you hang out because of the industry that we're in. Obviously it's more male dominated. It's more professional. Like a lot of the people, especially these corporations and stuff now that you hang out with as an influencer and as an industry ambassador, you're hanging out with more corporate-y guys, not necessarily just contractors all the time. Because contractors, we're a train wreck, right? We're like contractors are a train wreck. These corporate guys, they're pretty, they're like LinkedIn type of people. They're pretty by the book. They might be judging us. I don't know, but us contractors, we're not judging each other because we all have issues.
Dating is something that I struggle with.
It's tough.
From a balance standpoint, how do I make it all work? From a publicity standpoint, I don't really want everybody involved in my personal life. Not that I'm ashamed of it. I just don't want to be the topic of other people's conversations. And
you make that hard because you do put yourself out there a lot.
I know that.
Yeah, you're a very public figure, which I am.
Like. I'm very open about it. And when I see people date, I'm not judgmental, right? Because if you look at it, you date to find somebody, and you're going to end up with one person, which means every other relationship you ever have is going to end.
Except in Utah, though. Didn't Utah, can't you have multiple people?
I don't think that's the same for women.
Oh, okay, never mind. All right, keep going.
Honestly,
sorry. I was just trying to be funny.
I can't imagine trying to entertain more than one man. Or take care of or do whatever. Because I'm actually super traditional when it comes to gender roles. I'm very feminine.
You're to cook, clean, and do laundry and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah. And I want to.
And you're still going to be Jen Silver, Miss, Universe, where, you're everywhere and you travel and you do all that stuff, too? How are you going to do it all?
I just will because I always have, right? I still cook, clean, and do all of those things. It's just for my kids right now.
Yeah.
But no, I'm very, very nurturing and very traditional when it comes to those things. The challenge is finding the right man that can understand that at daytime or one time, this is me and I'm out and I'm, on stage and I'm speaking and I'm empowering and speaking to 90% men. And, they have to have confidence and security in our relationship and
there's going to be a lot of selfies with guys. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of selfies with guys.
I mean, I take a lot of pictures. People ask to take pictures with me a lot. And
we can get
this. I just am not going to be an easy person to date.
You're not. No, you're not. You agree. Because I'm thinking about it right now for you. And I'm thinking all right,
you got a list?
Well, no, I don't know. Not people. I'm just trying to think. Okay, just like with hiring in your company, you want to do the role first, and then go out and find the person. Okay, so we could do this right now.
Let's define the.
We gotta the ideal candidate, and then you go out and market to that person. Because if you just market to people and spread it out, like you're gonna get a bunch of chaos, and then that's when you're gonna go back and forth. So you got to decide. Do you want someone? And you teach DISC, you talk a lot about the eagles and I forget all the animals. The
eagles, parrots, owls, doves.
Yeah. So like, because you're in between.
Eagle parrot.
You're an eagle parrot. That's what I am too, right?
Yep. You're probably parrot eagle, but yes.
I'm like
your I is higher than your D, isn't it?
Just barely. Like I'm an 100 I and a 94 D.
Yeah, I figured your I have
no S and C.
I have no C.
So if you guys are not picking up what we're throwing down right now, we're called the DISC assessment. So if you want more information, just look it up. All right. So do you want someone opposite of you, or do you want someone like you?
I could not date a beta man. So a lower A or a lower D would not work for me, because
you need someone dominant. Right? You need someone dominant, right? To like keep up with your dominance, right?
Yes. I need someone that I respect and admire, and that can hold me accountable when I need to be held accountable.
So you need someone mature then too, though, because the emotional maturity that's going to need to come with a high D and a high I, and I'm just only talking from experience because I'm thinking about guys like me. The younger version of myself wouldn't be able to handle you. The older version of myself thinks like, oh yeah, like it's probably, it sounds good, but I also think that there'd be lots of passion and lots of fights, right? Like with as much passion comes with like a lot of like.
I'm not a fighter, so I'm not.
Do you close off? Do you close off?
No, I process. So I'll say, hey, that triggered me, and I need to figure out why that upset me so much before I can have this conversation, because what I think I'm mad about is probably not it.
So you've been through some therapy then, if you said the word triggered like that.
Yeah. Well, I've done a lot. I haven't been through a lot of therapy inside of actually sitting with therapists, because this sounds probably bad, but I usually am smarter.
That does sound bad.
I know, I don't know how else to say it.
Should we cut that off?
No. I mean, I do a lot of reading and I understand a lot. And when I go and I know what's wrong and I want help, a lot of times therapists are there to just repeat back what you say, like you're going to.
You need a good therapist.
And I've never been able to find one, and so most of the work that I've done on my own.
That's very good. I mean, that's very aware. I mean, that's good that you have that kind of awareness and that you have that kind of discipline. And I think that tenacity, but I think that also comes, if we look back at your life, you crave that because you want to understand, because you did bounce all over the place. You lived in a home that wasn't probably the best, I mean, they probably didn't communicate the best. Obviously everything breaks down with communication. I think that's why you're so passionate about speaking about communication and emotional intelligence. You talk a lot about emotional intelligence. And when I heard you speak about that, I was like, oh, yeah, she's been putting some work in. Because I've been putting work in over the last couple of years. And so once you put the work in, you're like, oh, yeah, there's another person that's you can spot them like a mile away. And like
I did my first emotional intelligence type of coursework when I was 19.
Wow.
And so it's been part of my life off and on my entire adult life. And I am very passionate about it because it's not something that people are ever taught, but it is what I think truly differentiates real leadership from managers. And people want to be leaders and they don't understand how to cross that barrier into being a leader and being inspirational. And it really comes down to emotional intelligence and understanding how you occur to other people and what filters and things in their life that they listen through, so that you can literally tailor and switch on a dime so that they hear you.
So good.
And so I am very, very passionate about it.
All right. So we're not going to get into fights with this guy that you're dating, and he's going to be a strong man. He's going to have a strong personality.
He has to be super smart.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I mean, like you're because you'll get bored with him if he's not.
Yeah, because
you want to go deep and you want to talk about stuff and you want to be able to like keep the conversation rolling. And as soon as he checks out, you're gonna be like, all right, bored. And then you're gonna be like, oh wow, this isn't good. And then you might stay with him a little bit longer than you have to. And then like that's not good because that's what my parents did. And now I got to cut you off now, right? Like, and it's gonna be this back and forth in your brain. All right, so what kind of work does he do you think?
So I think he has to either be self-employed or an entrepreneur, because it is a mindset, right? People that have a job that they can leave are never going to understand what I do, because sometimes, I mean, my phone rings or my Facebook's going off or I'm getting emails. I mean, you know what it's like until 11, 12 o'clock at night.
1 o'clock in the morning, you never know. People are just, we're all up. When you look in Facebook Messenger, we're all active.
Yeah, well, mine's active all the time because I leave my Facebook up.
That's what I tell everybody too. Like, I'm not on there. It's just always on.
I switch back and forth and check things for sure. Or once I can see that I have a ton of notifications that I need to probably go look at. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think he would have to be at least self-employed or understand what it's like to run a business or manage, be the only person that's responsible for your income.
Do you think that either one of you would get sucked into each other's entrepreneurial journeys? And like, would you guys be helping each other? Does that sound good? Like, you guys want to do the same thing together? Is that interesting to you? Do you want to coach him? Do you want him to coach you? Like, do you guys want to start a business together?
So when you talk coaching, right? Like, I don't look at partnership and coaching. Like, I look at partnership from a standpoint of seeing things that your partner doesn't see and trying to show and help them be the best version of themselves.
Support. That's support. That's what you're supposed to do. But again, high level entrepreneurs get in this rat race of like constantly seeing problems and like trying to fix things. And we can come across here. I'm only telling you from experience. So like, we can come across as like the therapist / coach in the relationship. And if I don't know what that would be like, because I've never actually been with another entrepreneur, strong, like that type of mind. So like, I tend to be gravitated towards women that support, right? And like, because I don't think I could ever be with another strong, like a dominant personality, a dominant, highly influential personality. I just feel like my personality would clash. So I love the fact that you say support each other. I think that's really good. Do you think
that there are ways to cross paths sometimes and have things that you're working on together that you're both passionate about? But whether somebody is an entrepreneur or not, I think it's incredibly important that people have lives outside of each other.
Yeah. So me and Brittany. So Brittany loves yoga and meditation. Yeah. And she always is trying to get me to it because I probably need to do it because like every time I do like a meditation, I do feel 1,000% better. But it's really hard to like slow me down for like, let alone 5 minutes, like for an hour. Like, have you ever been in one of those salt bath things before? Have you ever done like, I forget what it's called, but
where you float?
It's like a floating spa. Yeah, the float spa. Yeah, she made me do that one time. That was like, I felt like I was being tortured. I was like, it's pitch black in there. You're floating. It's claustrophobic a little bit because the thing comes over your head. And I was like, people do this like for pleasure? Like, I don't know. But anyway, so it is cool to have different hobbies. Like, what are your hobbies? Like, what do you do like when you're not out speaking at conferences or running a roofing company?
Well, I really like to hike a lot, and Utah has great hiking. I also like to paint.
Like, what do you paint? Is it like one of those paint and sips where like you grab the wine and you guys like go through a class or like?
No, I don't do well in like organized shit like that. Like I do way better. Like I don't want somebody to tell me how to paint. I just want to do what I want. So I'll like go to Michael's and just pick up little things. Like sometimes I'll do canvases. Sometimes I'll pick up ceramic things and paint.
Are you painting like landscapes? Or are you painting people? Like are you painting abstract?
Whatever I want, whatever I feel.
All right. What's the last painting that you did? The
last painting was a ceramic elephant, and I painted him stained glass.
Interesting.
He's not done yet, though.
Do you like doing that do you like doing that by yourself? Is that kind of like your alone time? Like that's the time like to get your clarity breaks and. All right. And what do you imagine this future partner of yours? What do you imagine like are his hobbies and the stuff that he's allowed to do by himself that you don't really have any interest in? Like, what would those be?
He can do whatever he wants because that's not me. But I don't know if he wants to go golfing or if
there
he
you
wants
go.
to watch football or if he wants to
But
play
what if he
poker.
what if he likes hiking and painting? Now you have somebody like
then you have those things you can do together.
and you'll find something else to do.
And I'll find something else to go do by myself. Like I really love to travel. So finding a partner that wants to travel
for fun or for conferences and work.
No,
there's a difference.
Yeah, no.
I've learned that. I thought it was going to be so much fun going from city to city to city. Then you realize you don't actually see outside the hotel room or the ballroom that you're in. And everyone was like, hey, how was, I don't know, where have we been? Like even Orlando. We were just in Orlando. We were in Orlando twice together this year. And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't get to see Mickey Mouse. Like I got to see like the airport and the hotel.
Yeah.
And that was
it isn't what people think.
This wasn't like Universal Studios where I got to like go hang out for a day. Like I fly in, I do the stuff, and I fly home. And it sounds glamorous at first, and then you realize, that's what they say. They say it's not that glamorous.
It's really not. No, I want to travel internationally. I really like culture.
Yeah, you said you've been to Japan. You lived in Japan, or you been to Japan? Or?
I lived in Japan for 4 years
with your husband. How long were you married for?
The first time I was married for 2.5 years, and the second time I was married for 8.
8, and so now we're getting ready to try for time number 3, though, right?
I don't know if I want to get married.
Well, if you find the right guy, though.
I don't know if I need the paper or the contract.
Well, here's the deal. You're going to be able to just send them this link. Anybody that hits you up like on Match.com or Tinder, be like, here.
I've never been on Tinder.
All right, well, whatever. I don't even know the sites anymore. I'm just saying.
Well, I've never done the online dating thing. I was going to write a book about dating, like 5 years ago because I just could not understand the.
Well, maybe you should because the first 2 didn't work out. So maybe you need to try a different method.
No, my picker was broken. My picker was way broken.
Ooh, let's talk about the picker. I like that. You call it the picker.
Yeah, the picker.
The picker. But before we go to that, I'm just like, you can be able to share this link with somebody and say, here, this is me. If you're still interested, like this could be like the top of the funnel. Like, they got to get past this podcast. And then what's going to happen
Here are the requirements to date me. No, just kidding.
I mean, they're going to get a good sense of like what you're into. They're either going to fake it for a while and be able to pull that the wool over your eyes for a little bit, but after a while, they're not going to be able to fake it. So let's talk about the picker. Because I'm assuming because when we're younger, because we're misguided and we've been brought up in a world where it's kind of confusing and the people around us kind of really import their views on us and like, our own self-limiting beliefs and all the stuff that we learned about ourselves. Me and you know this now, but back then, you didn't know anything, right? We're just like winging it, right? Like we're literally like shooting from the hip. So tell me why your picker was broke. Was your picker broke for the same reason both times, or did you get better? Did you level up the second time and then just didn't quite level up all the way?
No. I want to be conscious of what I say here because these are my children's dads, and
Do you have children with both? Do you have children with both of them?
My older 2 are with my first husband, and my second 2 are with my second. And so I'm. I hope that you.
We don't have to go in there if you don't. Yeah. Let's not go.
I think in general, I had
Nobody listens to this podcast anyway, just so you know.
No, I think it's a good conversation. I just want to be transparent about, at what level.
Well, I wouldn't say anything bad about anybody. I would just say.
Let's just focus on my picker because that's what we're going to talk about, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't even, honestly, I don't even look at my ex-husbands as being the epitome of my picker broken. It was also men I dated. So I had a conversation about my self-worth and what I deserved. And I struggled, not at this point, but prior to, I struggled a lot with feeling like I was even deserving of love. And that, I actually looked for men that supported the fact that I wasn't lovable, so that internally I could be right about that, even though that none of that was conscious at all. I made decisions based around that. And I dated men that, cheated on me. I dated men that treated me poorly. I dated men that, didn't care about me or lied to me, or, a variety of different things. And I went through some tough times. And
it's almost like you attracted, you think you like attracted like that. So like not like consciously, but like because of maybe what you were putting out into the world at the time based on that. And then like, it kind of just, it's almost like you're,
and even
it's like we sabotage ourselves.
Yes. And that's what I was going to say. Even when I was in relationships that were more healthy, I would sabotage them. And so it wasn't always even the picker or the guy. It was really that I was broken. I joke about it being my picker, but it really all comes down to me and the decisions that I had made and have made in my life. And a lot of them, obviously, I can't say that I regret them, because I love who I am and I love the way that my life has turned out. And I probably needed to go through a lot of those things, but I wish I hadn't been so cruel to myself. I wish I had loved myself earlier in life and treated myself the way that I really deserved to be treated.
But let me tell you this, but because you went through all that, you're going to love yourself even more. And for the next 40 years, you're going to get to experience a love that most people won't get to experience because you went through all that. And
I have understanding and compassion and can help other people, right? I can see it, especially in women.
And to me, that transcends like the people that are out there just kind of like that had their picker right when they were 20 and just stay like right here. And they don't ever get to feel the full sense of like that full love. Like, what I'm talking about? So for the people that were broken, and I feel like I'm one of those people as well. And again, I didn't have some crazy traumatic childhood either, but it was traumatic to me.
Correct.
We all have our own trauma, right? We all suffer from our own PTSD. I don't like to say that lightly, but like at the end of the day, it's important to us, right? And we're the ones that matter. And it's important not to compare yourself to other people's situations, because everyone's situation is unique, and that's what makes you you. And once you can understand your true identity and not be attached to what other people think about you, right? Yeah. And what like that self-confidence is going to be, that self-confidence that you have now that you experience. How long do you think you've had this new, I don't want to call it like this transformation or this epiphany, or like how long have you been experiencing this new love for yourself?
It started when I chose my name.
So wait, hold on a second. What do you mean chose your name?
So when I got divorced the second time, I did not want to keep my married name. I didn't want to go back to my maiden name. And my first married name was pretty cool, but
what's
my
cool?
ex-husband...
What's cool? Tell me what cool is.
It was Maddox. So Jen Maddox.
Oh, that is, well, it's, I don't know. It sounds like a
it's
Jen
easy
Maddox.
to say.
Yeah.
Right? It's quick. It's easy to say.
It sounds like one of those like young influencers. Jen Maddox. She's like Instagram girl.
But I didn't understand why I couldn't just have my own name. Like, why did my name have to be tied into some man somewhere?
You wanted your own identity. You wanted your own identity.
I wanted my own identity. And so I went through all of these different names, right? And I told my friends, I'm like, I'm going to make up my last name. And they're like, you can't do that. I go, why not? Like, why is that not a thing? And so I did research, and I found out that I just had to run an ad through the paper, and I paid $2,500, and I went to mediation for my divorce. And she's asking me what I'm going to do with my name. And I tell her the story that I had decided I was going to choose a name. I had some criteria. I didn't want to know anybody with that last name. I didn't want, I wanted it to be easy to say and easy to pronounce. Like, it would be weird, Ben, if I went up to you, I'm like, hey, Benny, I'm going to change my last name. It's going to be Fisher. Okay. You're like, okay, stage 5 clinger. Like, that's insane. Who does that?
No, you definitely can't pick somebody that you know. Cause
no, you can't.
I think it's weird when someone names their kid somebody that like, that you know, or is in your family, or like, it's like in your circle, like, and somebody like names a child the same name of like one that's like someone that's close to you, I think that's weird sometimes.
Sometimes it depends on the situation, probably.
Yeah, I know, but I get it. So you wanted to be unique, right? So like you're fighting for this. How did you come up with Silver as the name that you obviously chose? Right?
I would try on different last names, and I'd go in and I'd talk to my buddies, and I'd be like, okay, what about this one? And they were like, and they'd say it. They were like, I don't like that. And when I went in with Silver, and I don't even remember what some of them were.
Silver sounds like Maddox to me. I mean, it's very like
it's catchy, right? And
very
that's
clear.
what I wanted catchy. I wanted memorable. And they were like, I love it. Well, so I'm in mediation, and I'm asking her, or she's asking me what I'm going to do with my last name, and I tell her, I'm like, well, I did this, and I came up with this name, so I'm going to change it once my divorce is final legally. And she goes, that's the coolest fucking story I've ever heard. Those are her words verbatim, my mediator. Okay. And I'm like, she just said the F word, right? In Utah.
She's a government official in Utah. She's not allowed to say those words.
And she goes, I'm going to do you one. She goes, I'm just going to do you a favor. I'm going to slide it into your divorce paper. She goes, the judge will sign it and it will be legal. And I go, it's like, that simple? And she's like, yeah.
Slide it in. No big deal.
Where it says petitioner wishes to change her name or wishes to retain the name or whatever, she just put petitioner wishes to change her name to Jennifer Marie Silver. And the judge signed it. And like, I can remember carrying it into the DMV going, is this really going to work? Like, aren't they going to know that I'm not Jen Silver? And then the other side of me is like, how are they going to know? Like, what, that could have been your maiden name. It doesn't say anything anywhere that it wasn't your maiden name. So yeah, that's my official.
Girls are complicated because us guys, we just end up sticking with the same name. I feel like our whole life. I don't think it's very common that a guy changes his name.
Now, I did not know that Silver was Jewish. Not that it's a big deal.
Did you know that Fisher was Jewish?
I did.
Yeah, but I'm not Jewish, and everybody I'm like.
You get asked all the time if you're Jewish.
All the time, and then people.
Yeah, I get asked all the time if I'm Jewish too, and I did, and it's not a big deal. Except
I wear it with a badge of honor. I wish I was Jewish. I'd have a lot more money. That's for sure. Like every Jewish person I know is rich.
Why? And I kept going, why do people keep asking me if I'm Jewish? And I finally asked somebody. I'm like, why are you asking me that? They're like, well, your last name is Jewish, and I'm like, that makes sense why I didn't know anybody in Utah with that last name, because there's not a lot of Jewish people in Utah. And
yeah, you guys are all Mormons over there, right?
Well, there is a large volume of Mormon people. I am not Mormon.
I know you're not, but like that Utah. When I think of Utah, I think of Mormons. I mean, that's like isn't that like the state? I mean, that's the state where like the most of them are from, right?
Yeah, I would say we're at about 47% statewide now. What
do you mean 47%? Like here in Pennsylvania, that's got to be like 1%, like not even 1%.
Well, I'm sure, but
so that's what I'm saying. So Utah is the state that's predominantly Mormon. I mean,
at
the end of the day.
Yeah, of any state, yes.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I just wanted to make sure I had the right state. I don't, before I put that out which I just find it interesting, right? Like, I'm sure there's history behind that, and don't know all that. Don't need to go into that now. But so Silver. So you walked out of the DMV. You got your new ID. It said Silver. Did you do your hair real pretty? You got your makeup on. Like, was it like
I don't think so. I think I was too terrified to even see if it would stick.
How long ago did that happen? Just so I have some context.
2018.
Oh, so this wasn't that long ago. Wow. So like, and then all those pics. So like, my first introduction to you was, I kept seeing you on social media, and I kept seeing this like big badass image of you, like like you just looked like I think you had the tattoo like on your sleeve, right? And that was
the photo from the roofing contractor magazine.
Yes, yeah. Yes. And you had like a shadow on your face, and I was like, oh man, I'm scared of her. Like she was like, I'm like, who's this Jen Silver? Like, who is that? Like, who is she? Where did she come from? And here we now know, like, she literally birthed that name, and then she probably went and did a photo shoot, and she created her own image, and she had her transformation day.
That is exactly right.
And now you've been living in this new identity, and how's it been going?
Well, just like anything, there's been good days and bad days.
What's the biggest challenge to shift that mindset and that identity? Say, hey, I'm going to throw that old me is over here. I got this new me. And for a lot of people, they don't get to do the name change. You know, they don't get to like they don't get to isolate it and call themselves something different. You know, some people do. Like, you know, I think Kanye West changed his name and did some weird things. But like, how does it go for you?
I'm not a symbol. I could be a symbol, right? I could have changed my name to a symbol.
Yeah. So like, so tell me what what are some challenges that go with that?
As far as like associated with the name, there's honestly not really any.
Yeah, nobody knows until now. They're all going to know now, right?
Well, I tell the story a lot. Most people think it's really awesome, right?
Oh, cool. I think it's cool as can be.
Yeah. So I've never really got any adversity around that. I think the challenge comes in holding myself accountable to who I said I was going to be and the things that I wasn't going to do to myself anymore and the behaviors that I wasn't going to tolerate. And sometimes I've failed and I have to, you know, forgive myself again and clean it back up with myself and push forward. The hardest thing for me to overcome has been fear. If you think about
was that an airplane that just went by?
Yes, I'm by the military base.
Okay, I was wondering what that was. Keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt because I want to get.
No, you're okay.
I want to get to the airplane story before I heard the airplane come through. But you're talking about fear, right? So keep going.
The hardest thing for me to have overcome has been fear. You know, if you think about it from a gender bias standpoint, you have a daughter and a son now, right?
Yep.
Right. So as your children grow up, you will naturally start to groom your son to not be fearful and, you know, teach him that he can handle anything. He's fine. And if you don't do it, society will do it. And unfortunately with boys, it's sometimes even kind of crude. Don't be a pussy. Don't do this. Don't do that. Man up. You're not allowed to have fear. And it's the opposite for women. You know, we're coddled to a point of daddy's going to fix it. Daddy will look under your bed. Nobody's going to hurt you. We're not going to let anything happen to you. And so when you become a single woman and you're faced with fear and there isn't a man there to fix it, it can be paralyzing because you don't know how to problem solve your fear and how to break it down so granularly that it's not a fear anymore, right?
But you have an unfair advantage though because you're an entrepreneur and a business person. I feel like you're wired that way. So like,
oh God, no.
You can probably handle that, can't you?
Oh, I know. I mean, I didn't look to become an entrepreneur. Everything happened quicker or unexpectedly. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, hey, I'm going to go start a business. I'm going to go do this. It was, I worked for a company. They went out of business. I had a team. What was I going to do? My team said, let's do this type of thing, right? It wasn't.
Gotcha. So do you still feel like as a female, and, you know, I talked to Brittany about this a lot, like, do you feel like, do you think it's, you know, do you ever read that book, Men Are From
Mars, Women Are From Venus?
Yeah. Like, do you think that's the male's like responsibility to like look out, care, protect? Like, do you think we're innately wired like that? Because I'm sure I could talk to some people that are like, oh no, that's old school. Like, you know, that doesn't matter. But I think that there's natural things in the genes and the chromosomes that like just naturally make us wired like that. Like men are like hunters.
Have you read The Way of the Superior Man?
No, I've read The Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
No, read The Way of the Superior Man. It is an excellent book on masculine, feminine energies.
Oh, yeah. Brittany talks about the energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, I believe that men and women are wired traditionally a certain way, but I really think it breaks down to masculine, feminine, and not maybe so much man, woman anymore.
I like that because my therapist told me that even me, have feminine energy sometimes, and I can let that out, right? That's the softer side of me. That's the feelings. That's when I want to cry, right? That's when I want to hug, right? Like yeah.
Yes, and so
we have to know how to balance those and then and let those things come out.
Right, and Brittany probably has masculine tendencies as well, right?
Oh yeah, when she gets like triggered and when she gets mad. Oh yeah, I'm actually like she's way more dominant than me in those situations.
And that's what I think is the distinction, and it's understanding that. I mean, I think maybe 50 years ago or 80 years ago, women weren't allowed to behave that way, and men weren't allowed to behave.
Right.
That way.
Yeah.
So
and we grew up in a society like that, and our parents are wired like that. So then now we're wired like that. But now I feel like there's this shift happening where there's so much education, and people like me and you are saying, like, we're going to stop this insanity. We're going to go figure out like why we're like the way we are, and we're going to go start living our true identity. And then we're going to like start teaching our kids at a younger age before they get too screwed up. We're going to start teaching them younger. Do you feel like that?
Well, we're going to screw them up differently.
Yeah, we're going to. Okay, I want to go into that because you have 4 kids, right?
I do, yeah.
And like, what's the age ranges?
Almost 22, 10.
22 to 10. So, and again, you had this transformational 4 years ago, really, to where like, okay, so now, your 22-year-old. I mean, she's pretty much probably set in her ways a lot of the ways.
She's
so
almost 20. So 20 and then to 10.
Oh, 20 and 10. All right, sorry,
yeah.
22.
No, that's
10.
okay.
22, 10. All right. So either way, though, you have a lot more. You can mold the 10-year-old more than you can mold the 20-year-old right now, right? I mean, is that fair to say? I mean, that's just logic, right? Like,
yeah.
Because all right, so how do you start making a difference now? What are the things that you're going to tell the 10-year-old your 10-year-old? Is it your daughter or son?
A daughter.
Daughter. So even better, right? 10-year-old female. What are you going to do now that you know what you know now, and how are you going to change that? How is it going to be different? How will she have a better life for it?
Well, I teach her to walk through her fear. Like if she comes and says, "Hey, I'm afraid," I'm like, "Well, what are you afraid of?" This. Okay, well, what about that scares you? And then well, what does that mean? Well, what's going to happen then, right? And I break it all the way down until she can get to a place that what she's actually afraid of is nothing, right? Or is not realistic, or the likelihood of it ever happening is so slim. But I'm sure I screwed her up in other ways. Like, I think as parents, we don't intentionally do or say things that leave impressions on our kids, but we are going to lead those. And I think what the best thing that we can do is just be responsible for them when they come and say, "Hey, this happened when I was 6 and I came in and you got really mad at me for this and this." And I'm like, "Oh, that was not what was going on in my world." Right.
Yeah. You probably, yeah.
And
half the time, probably don't even remember. Half the time we probably wouldn't even remember. And I can't get my 8-year-old to say anything to me. That's like, I can't, he has no, I think he's still too young. Because I'm very conscientious. Like, all right, how do I not screw him up? How do I not screw him up? How do I not?
Even that alone is going to screw him up.
I know. But like, I mean,
that's what I mean. Like,
I think it's important that we teach them how to ask really good questions and over communicate. I think if we can teach them to over communicate, because they're going to be screwed up one way or the other, right? There's balance, there's like positive and negative to everything. So I think if we can teach them to ask really good questions and just keep over communicating, we can at least shed more light on it. Because I feel like when we shut down communication and we go into our internal self, even as a child or as an adult, that it could be, we can be our own worst enemy, and then that can just spiral out of control and make things way worse.
It depends on what you mean, I think, in my opinion, by over communicate. Like for me, I teach my kids to process before they communicate. Don't react out of emotion. Don't yell and scream. Like,
sure, but like,
minutes, right?
Yeah, but not be so. But I mean, over communicate. Like, okay, like so. Like once you if you have something to say, and like you have a question and you're not sure about something, actually say it instead of just holding it in like for forever. Because I mean, I was brought up in we didn't really like. It wasn't like they said don't talk about your feelings, but nobody talked about your feelings.
Kids are seen and not heard, and yeah.
The kids are seen and not heard. Yep. Yeah. We must have I think we all grew up in the same generation, but
we did.
So what do you think? So what do you tell the oldest? Is it a daughter too, right? The oldest one is a daughter. So the oldest one, when you had this transformation, you're like, I'm going to be silver. Like, and this girl, she's like, very adolescent, very 16, you know what I mean? Like she's very, very mature, I'm sure. Like, how do you what's that conversation like? Oh, hey, what's up, girl? I'm going to change my name to Silver. What do you think?
Well, I talked to my kids, my older ones, about it at the time. And, they were very, very supportive and thought it was awesome. And it made a lot of sense to them as to why I wanted to do what I did and, why the thought process around it. And so they've always been very supportive. Both my two older ones were.
Well, do you find that kids are very resilient and kids are very like, depending on how you position it, like kids are down for whatever?
Pretty much.
I like that about kids. I still like think I'm a kid.
I can see that.
I'm kind of like down for whatever. So like,
I can see that.
I feel like I got to be like the best dad ever because like, I don't know, I'm just a big kid. So I still can't believe you have a grandbaby coming. When's that due? She
is due February 6th. So I'm having a grandson.
Wow.
My guess is she will have him towards the end of January.
We got to start doing some Grandma Silver content.
It even sounds bad.
It does. Well, because it's going to be hard to get a boyfriend. It's going to be hard to get a younger boyfriend.
Thank you. Thank you for telling me it's going to be hard to get a boyfriend.
Well, a younger. Remember I said 30, 40, 50? I'm going to take 30-year-olds off the table.
They definitely won't want to date grandmas.
It's not that the weird ones will. The ones that think it's kinky. Well,
no, and I have no desire to be somebody's fantasy or
no. So I think as long as you rock with I mean, obviously, I'm assuming that you're not going to have any more children, right?
I can't.
Okay, so then you're probably going to find. Yeah, I would say you want to stick to 40 because you're going to need someone more mature. Most men aren't. We're not that mature. The single ones are single for a reason, I would say.
How old is too old? Where did the light just come from? Did it just
I don't know. Maybe God's trying to tell you something.
That's really weird.
How old's too old? I mean, that's up to you. How old do you think is too old for you? Like, what do you think? I mean, I don't know. Are you friends with that? Do you have any friends that are 50, 60s that you think I could I will say men have a little bit more energy, like older men have a little more energy to keep up with a younger woman. I feel like, so I think that's not going to be a problem. I think if you really want someone dominant, entrepreneurial, confident like that, they've got to been around the block, right? They have to kind of have they probably went through a divorce or two. I bet you it was something that you're looking for. So that way they can empathize with the situation. They know that they've been through a transformation process, right? So to kind of tie all this up, I mean, I think, you're probably looking for someone, between 40 and 55 and, someone that's got, they probably got kids similar to you do. They probably, you split time with your kids or do you have them all the time or how's that work?
My oldest lives with her fiance in Salt Lake.
She's really all grown up, gone. Yeah.
Yeah. My second daughter lives with me full time. And then my younger two, I share 50-50 week on, week off, which is why I'm able to travel on the times I don't have them.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, you're going to need somebody that can juggle all that. Someone that's not very needy, that doesn't need a lot of attention, right? That's confident in themselves, but someone that's still going to be loyal though, and somebody that's still going to be supportive and not get Yeah. So I mean, listen, you got your work cut out. The filtration, you have a lot more filters. When you're clicking all the boxes, on whatever the dating site is that you try to go onto. I know you haven't done it.
I can't get.
I know, but here's the issue though. It's a numbers game because we're finding a needle in a haystack. You know what I mean? And then so you need a mass funnel to filter out because even with online, you're still only going to get a good handful of quality candidates. First of all, you're going to have to put them through this podcast. Then you're going to have to actually go on a date with them.
I'm going to make everybody that I potentially could date go through a podcast with you to interview. That would be fun.
No, not me. They're just going to listen to this one back to make sure that because I feel like you've been pretty authentic and you've been pretty yourself. And I've heard some of these stories, but it was nice to get it all out in 1 hour. And,
I am pretty much an open book. If anybody wants to know something about me, I'm going to tell them. I don't have anything to hide. I have shit that I've done that I don't love, but I'll own it.
See, I thought I was getting exclusive content, but I know I'm not. So, it's all
you
good.
are because you've asked me some questions that nobody else has ever asked me. I've never talked about dating on a podcast.
How many podcasts have you been on?
I don't know. 50?
That's because most of the podcasts, they want to prove how businessy they are and how
not all of them. Some of them are more personal. It's just not, people probably don't know whether or not that's an okay conversation.
Yeah, well, see me, I just ask, and if you tell me no. See, you have enough maturity and boundaries to be, oh, Ben, I don't feel like going there right now. Mm-hmm. You can do that.
I would, if that's how I felt.
So that's about it. I feel like that's good. Is there anything else you want to cover? Anything else that you think we should get out there and make sure that we're well understood? I mean,
so from a business side, I am doing a bunch of financial classes for business owners, teaching them how to understand their numbers and budget and, understand their break even versus what they're going to do from a markup standpoint, and how volume and break even and markup can all intertwine, and make a choice on what type of customer, what type of pricing structure they want to have.
How's that? Is that small groups?
Super awesome. Huh?
Is that small group workshops? Is that like consistent
I'm doing
coaching?
Them virtually. No, I'm doing them virtually. I did one this week. I've got another one scheduled in December and one in January.
And they're like, so like multiple people can attend like this workshop.
And I do group lessons, and then I put them in breakout rooms with their individual companies, and then I kind of jump between breakout rooms and answer questions and stuff. So,
wow, that's really needed. I mean, that's good.
The people that attended the class this week, I mean, it was my very first one. I've been talking about doing it, said it was incredibly beneficial and necessary for their business, and they learned stuff that they'd never even thought of.
Well, that's what I liked about the One Industry, One Model tour that you put together this past summer, which I had a chance to be a part of. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I know that like there was the tax people that would get up and talk, and that was always super informative. Then like Connor Rodich would get up and like, he would go boom, 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 boom. And like, he was trying to cram it all in an hour. So I'm sure you're probably trying to go deeper on some of that stuff. Cause
way deeper.
Yeah, we got to go deeper. Cause at the end of the day, like it's cool to like know about some of that stuff. But when you get back home, you're like, man, that's overwhelming. And then like,
what do I do with it? Right.
Guys like me just want to like throw that in a ball and just go sell more stuff. Right. And like add more stress to the system. Right. And, which is not the healthy way to do it. So I'm glad that you're putting out more education in the roofing industry. I know you got one more, One Industry, One Model. It's in Salt Lake City. It's going to be January
18th and 19th, right?
18th and 19th.
Door-to-door.
Yeah, so that's cool. And people can go to oneindustry1model.com and
register for that. Yeah.
Get some tickets for that. And I know you're a speaker on the GAF tour. You do a lot of GAF events. What else you got going on?
I'm doing some private consulting for some vendors in the space and some speaking around that. I've done some other manufacturers speaking events. I've got. My calendar's booked all the way through March.
Nice.
So a lot of it is GAF because they're going to have all their expos early in the spring, and those are going to be great.
Are you going to go to all the expos?
I can't. Some of them are on the same day.
Are they? Gotcha.
Yeah, like Minneapolis and Northern California, I believe, are the same day, and Northern California booked me first.
You coming to the Northeast?
I don't know when that one is.
I don't know. They either have it usually in Atlantic City or Mohegan Sun, but I don't know.
So I've been working with a couple TMs up in like upstate New York area on developing some material for contractors. So I know that I will be out there probably into first quarter, beginning of second quarter to do some work. So.
What's one thing out there that you don't talk about, that you don't teach on, that you think would be really valuable for contractors to know more information, that you wish there was more information on?
So I touched on asset protection in my finance class, right? And I don't know enough to deep dive into it and how you should set up a corporate structure for asset protection, like whether or not your asset protection company should be a C Corp, so that it is, completely a standalone entity, even though it's going to have a double taxation. And I understand that. Is it protected more as a C Corp than it would be as an S Corp or an LLC? Because
that's for the attorneys, man. Like, didn't you get I saw your girl Colucci's.
You asked, like,
yeah,
what is
no. Yeah, that's good. How about something more practical for like a contractor?
You don't think asset protection? See, I think that's so.
Yeah, but it's not like not for the contractors here. The contractors that need the most help are the guys doing $1 million to probably $5 million to $10 million, and I think that.
But those are exactly the ones that are have the risk of going bankrupt. And if all of their assets, like their vehicles and everything is in an asset protected company and they lease it.
Yeah, I hear you, but it's still, you got to, if they're making payments on that, most banks aren't giving them a loan without signing their personal name to it anyway. So
yes, I understand that.
So because of that, is it really protected because you're still on the hook for it?
Depends on how you file bankruptcy. But anyways.
We're talking about the negative side of things. I'm talking about how to grow businesses.
Okay. No. I was just saying that's why I think asset protection is more pertinent.
Gotcha.
Than
what about sales, marketing, leadership, organization, how to grow? Like, where do you think that, because there's so many gurus out there right now and there's so many people training and teaching. What do you think there's a lot of misinformation about that you wish there was more clarity on?
Marketing, like where your marketing budget should really go, right? Like you have everybody's coming in, oh, digital, oh, SEO, oh, this, but who actually goes in and says, this is a reasonable SEO budget. This is a reasonable budget for ads. This is how much you should be spending on your social media digital marketing. This is how much you should be doing in canvassing. This is how much you should be doing in networking events. Like, nobody really breaks it down from that standpoint.
Okay. And I know why, but it's because every business owner is unique and they all have a different set of strengths.
I agree.
And depending on those...
You even tell them where to start to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, so you give them a gauge? Mm-hmm. I like that. I think Tim Brown actually tried to make a post about all the different little buckets and try to put percentages around them, but... I like that.
He's excellent when it comes to website stuff, but
because he was blown away because we did one of those walking talks yesterday when I was in Minneapolis. Because I never went down the SEO wagon. I built my brand the old-fashioned way, and then people just Google search me now.
Yep, that's what I did too.
By name. But I'm going to be doing the SEO thing. But I think that's why I think it's different for every business, depending on what their personality is and what they're actually good at naturally themselves. Like for me, it was like creating the old-fashioned brand of great customer service and referrals and brand recognition, and then you tie it together with hard work. Or if you're a super smart guy and you're going to be more hands-off, you're not going to be in the trenches, and you want to try to run the business digitally, you can do that too. Can you do both? Yeah, you can do both. But I think every founder or entrepreneur has a set of strengths. And whatever those are, because that's organic, that's you don't have to spend that much money to get that type of, action. Because when you're starting a business, the last thing you want to do is overspend on marketing that, is going to be coming.
That's exactly what I think.
It's going to come into a system that, first of all, you don't even have all the smoothest systems and processes anyway. So a lot of that stuff's going to get wasted anyway. And that's why I'm not a big fan of overspending on marketing in the early days. Because you're still trying to figure out your sales process, your operations process. And until those are solved, you could be wasting a lot of money on lead generation. But listen, I can nerd out all day about marketing, but I appreciate you being here. I also want to probably have you back on in another year because I know you got some other bigger plans for the future. Then we could do a whole podcast on that about your plans for education at the macro level, not just in the industry that we're in. But I ask every guest 5 questions. It's kind of rapid fire. Imagine you're on an island by yourself. Okay. You have to go there and you're going to have to be there by yourself for forever. What book are you going to take with you? You're allowed to take one book with you.
Probably the 4 Agreements.
4 Agreements, like that. I think you're the second or third one out of 40 that said that. All right, you'll have to take one movie with you.
Tombstone.
Hey, listen, potential boyfriends, if you're watching Tombstone, all right? So hopefully you can get yourself some Tombstone. All right, what restaurant you putting on that island? Where do you love to eat at? It could be famous, not famous.
It would have to be a really good sushi restaurant.
Okay, what's your favorite? What's your go-to? Do you have a go-to where you live, or do you have a go-to when you're out of town somewhere? Or?
We'll go with Takashi.
Is that in Utah?
It is. Just because it's top of mind.
And let me ask you a question about Takashi, because I'm a big sushi person, like big. And if you're ever in Pittsburgh, I'll take you to, I think, probably one of the best sushi restaurants around. Is it like on the dollar wise? Is it like on a 1 to 10, like price wise? Like where is it on the 0 to 10? Like where Nobu's like a 10?
7, 8.
It's okay. All right, so it's not crazy, but it's pretty good for a local spot. Gotcha. And then you're allowed to go on one vacation. You're allowed to go anywhere in the world for a week. Where do you go?
And I'm on an island.
Or whatever. You just pretend like you're you're on an island. Where do you go?
I would probably go.
It could be a mountainous island. It could be a mountainous island though. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's going to be mountains on your island and there's going to be a beach on your island.
And I'm by myself?
Yeah, you're by yourself.
I'd go on a family vacation somewhere. I'd see my family one time a year.
All right, so take the people out of it. We're talking about landscape, people, surrounding, but not your personal people. What culture do you want to go see?
I'd go to the farm and go fishing and ride horses.
What state?
Iowa.
Iowa. Have you ever been to a farm in Iowa?
Yeah, my grandparents lived there, and I grew up there.
That's cool.
My summers, I spent all my summers on my grandparents' farm.
Man, you've been everywhere. I mean, I think I could do 25 podcasts with you.
You probably could.
I feel like you have that much inside of you to share. All right, last question is always the toughest one. You have 24 hours. You're allowed to spend it with one person. Who are you flying in for the day? It could be famous. It could be a celebrity. It could be someone that's been dead for 300 years.
Can it be?
It can be anybody you want.
God or Jesus.
There you go. Jesus Christ. Very interesting. You're a very interesting human, Jen Silver.
The other one would be maybe my 5-year-old self, and it's a close one.
Just because you want to love on her.
I want to know what I was like before my self-limiting beliefs. What did I think was possible? So those two
remind me the next time that I see you in person. Remind me about that thing, because I want to tell you about that. I always think about me when I was 5 to 7 to 8, and I think that's why I still act like I still like have that imagination, and that's why I'm like so positive all the time, and I'm so optimistic, because like it's never left me. Now I've gotten beaten up along the way.
Yeah.
But like for me, like, yeah, I want to talk to you about that, because it's interesting, because once you can find that and you can keep that with you, life is.
I bet. That's awesome.
Life's fun. I really appreciate you being here. How can someone get a hold of you? What's a good email address or a good social handle to follow you?
If you go to my website, which is jensilver.co, you'll have access to all my social media and my email, and I think everything's on there. So that's the
jensilver.co.
Yep.
There was no jensilver.com?
She is an author or put a book out at some point, and it's taken, so I couldn't.
Wait, so there's another Jen Silver out there?
There is. Yep.
Man, you better ask her. You better send her a letter, see if she can change her name.
I figure here in another couple years, I might be able to buy the domain.
That's good. Well, listen, I appreciate you being here, and you keep doing great things for the world, all right?
Thanks, Ben. Talk to you soon.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Big Fish Cares podcast.